A week before President Obama's first visit to Israel as president, U.S. intelligence officials warned Congress today that sanctions have not done enough to deter Iran from pursuing a nuclear weapon.
Clearly, the sanctions have had profound impact on Iran's economy. At the same time, at least publicly, overtly, that has not prompted a change in the Iranian leadership, specifically the supreme leader's approach.
And what General Clapper went on to say, and joining me now is Israel's ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Welcome. Good to see you. But what General Clapper went on to say is that they do not yet know what the supreme leader, who has sole control over this decision, is going to do. That said, what does Prime Minister Netanyahu want to hear from President Obama next week in Israel on the subject of Iran?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Andrea. Always great to be with you. President Obama is coming to Israel next week. His first trip abroad in his second term. We're delighted, very excited that he's coming. It's going to be a very momentous trip in terms of what the president's going to be doing in Israel. He's going to be visiting sites that highlight our ancient past, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Jewish roots of the Jewish state going back thousands of years. He'll be going to our equivalent of the Arlington National Cemetery, laying a wreath there. But he'll also be talking to young people and talking about Israeli innovation and about the common future binding the United States and Israel. And yes, we will be talking about the issues that are on the table for not just for Israel, but for many states in the region, including efforts to reanimate the peace process, to deal with the revolving and evolving situation in Syria, and with the Iranian nuclear program. And what we want to hear, again, is the reiteration of America's commitment that the president has said many times, of his commitment to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. We very much subscribe to that goal, and we're with the president on that. And we subscribe to the formula of a combination of escalating sanctions with a credible military threat that convinces that supreme leader that he's not paying a price for nothing. At the end of the day, he's not going to have this device, because at the end of the day, there will be a credible military threat.
Well, Joe Biden told AIPAC last week that the President of the United States does not bluff and that there is a credible military threat. That said, the Prime Minister told the UN General Assembly that spring is the red line. Has the time frame moved? Is there more time, or we're now a week away from spring? In fact, the President will be in Israel on the first day of spring. So are we now in a danger zone as far as the Prime Minister is concerned?
Well, we say we were in a red zone, taking the old the football equivalent of the last 20 yards before the goal line. We're definitely within that red zone, and the door for diplomacy, for sanctions, is open, but it's not a big door, and it won't be open indefinitely. And it's important, I think, that the United States understands this. Secretary of State Kerry said something very similar, and I think that we have a close and intimate dialogue with the United States about how to realize our common goal of preventing Iran from acquiring those nuclear weapons.
It's very clear that the administration wants to press hard. Certainly Secretary Kerry does, but that this is coming from the White House as well. Press hard on the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, which have been dormant now for years. Now, the White House has been criticized, as was Secretary Clinton, frankly, for not engaging enough. They didn't see very much traction there. Is the Prime Minister open to a new approach with the Palestinians? I know you'll say that you need to have a peace partner, and there's been criticism on all sides, but is there time to re-engage on that, which people in the region now really want to see?
Well, I think the criticism, actually, frankly, haven't heard about the president's inaction or Secretary of State Clinton's inaction of the peace process is not founded. They were quite active, and at the end of the day, none of us succeeded in bringing the Palestinians back to the negotiating table. And in spite of repeated efforts, and unfortunately, the Palestinians went a different direction. They went unilaterally to the UN to achieve territory without peace, unilaterally recognized Palestinian state, and then they embarked on a path of reconciliation with Hamas. Hamas, which is recognized by the United States and by the Quartet as a terrorist organization. These were not particularly helpful efforts on the part of the Palestinian Authority. Yes, there is time. We are very interested in returning to negotiations. We'll say openly we're willing to negotiate today, not tomorrow, in Washington, D.C., in Ramallah, in Jerusalem, on all the core issues, borders, security, recognition, Jerusalem, Jewish and Arab refugees, all those issues in order to reach a solution based on two states for two peoples.
And settlements? Is there give on this latest expansion and the objections to the way the map is being redrawn?
Well, we don't think the map is being redrawn. I think that the majority of the so-called expansion have been in areas which have been widely assumed will be part of Israel in the context of any peace arrangement. We know that settlements aren't the great obstacle. In 2005, we ripped up 21 settlements from Gaza to advance the peace process, and we didn't get peace. We got rockets from Hamas. Settlements are a subcategory of borders and territory, which is very much impacted by security arrangements. If there's greater security arrangements, we can show greater flexibility on borders.
Michael Oren, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for previewing the trip, and we will see you in the Holy Land next week.
Thank you, Andrea. See you there.